Oh, we've been waiting for this. I'm Groff, and welcome to the Untrained Ear. Today we are going to be getting into Let God Sort 'Em Out, Studio LP, Clipse. Let's go. Let God Sort 'Em Out is the fourth studio album by iconic hip-hop sibling duo, Clipse, the Thornton brothers, aka Pusha T and Malice. This album was laced with controversy leading up to its release cycle. The most notable of this being the track Chains and Whips featuring Kendrick Lamar, among other artists, which Def Jam Records did not consider fit to be released as it was recorded. This mostly it was revealed due to a line by K. Dot referring to the Trump card at the very end, basically, of the track. Def Jam believed that this could be perceived as a slight against sitting President Donald Trump, did not want to run with the bar under their record label and asked for it to be censored. Clipse responded by buying out their contract to the tune of a 7-figure number. The result is a release of Let God Sort 'Em Out with a completely intact Chains and Whips sitting at track number 2. This album was also managed by legendary production of Pharrell Williams, adding even more hype to the already towering release cycle. On Friday, July 11th, it finally landed, and the wait was worth it. Production was powerful. The flows were slicing. The beats were hype. The shade was sufficiently slung. This record is not completely flawless. However, the hip hop community is going to be talking about this thing for quite some time. Let's go ahead and peel into this thing, if even just a bit. I'm actually going to open up by talking about The Birds Don't Sing, which is symbolically a very different track on this album than a lot of what the rest of it does. Symbolically, it is a lot more spiritually peaceful than the rest. The production is a lot more intriguing on this piece than the majority of the album. And as we move forward, you'll kind of get an understanding of why I make a statement like this. But simply put, the piano and synth tandem on this I thought was a really good decision. It's very gripping. I really love the piano chords that were picked for the progression on this piece. I thought the vocal tandem as well in the chorus between John Legend and Pharrell was a really nice mix. And then for the verses, obviously, I thought this was just a lyrically really gorgeous tribute to the parents of the Thornton brothers. That line that is dropped, "Damn, I had a dad," just really like hit me so hard and still does, just so hard in the chest every time. Is just like it's just so moving and emotion evoking. I really just feel like you get just them in their best form in this, and that's not saying that they're not in the rest of the album. But it's just some different side than the energy you're kind of getting, and it adds more depth to them as a duo, I think, in this piece. Um, so many of these hip hop artists, I'll reference the recent Death of Slim Shady drop, for example, where he had a couple slower tracks on it that were more heartfelt and meaningful, and quite frankly, the best work on the album. Um, and spiritually, it just kind of didn't jive with the rest of that album. Whereas here, I didn't feel like it wasn't a great jive. It was a fine jive, but it also showcased them with more depth, where it felt like kind of more forced on the Death of Slim Shady for Eminem. It felt more natural here. And it really showcased them as more than just battle rappers, if that makes sense, on this piece. And I really love that for them. I think it shows the depth and the mastery that they have as musicians. So for me, this is a very important track on the album to showcase that they are more than just athletes, so to speak, in the genre. That they also, they're so meaning evoking and emotion evoking. And so this track is super important, I think, and lands home for me. All right, that being said, let's get into the sport of it. Chains and Whips, the $1 million track. The production on this thing is very dark. You've got ambient chords, accordion keys, uh, you know, Pharrell's killing it, no duh. Um, there's definitely pointed lyricism here, and there's some discussion and speculation in the community. Maybe it's a different way. For me, it's very blatant and obvious. This is a yay sling. Um, there's very pointed bars, and if you paid attention to the interviews and paid attention to the beef up until this point, it's so blaringly obvious. I think that more than an attack, this is a dance on the grave in all of regards and purposes. They're calling him poor, washed up, irrelevant. I think if you've seen the Pusha T, um, you know, interview, in fact, recently where he was talking about Ye, and he says, "Yeah, I think he knows how well I know him, and he knows me. Um, I don't really see him like a real person anymore." And he knows I know him to his core. And so, you know, uh, I think that really rings true about the Kanye, the Ye that we've seen, for some time now. I mean, the guy isn't making really that great music anymore. Everything is laced in controversy to even get him any kind of attention. His Twitter's a mess, and all of it, it's not hard to speculate that it's forced controversy at that, uh, for attention, because he wouldn't have the attention if not for it. Because quite frankly, it seems like the guy's lost a lot of step in regards to production and music capability. He just has not advanced with the culture of hip hop. That just seems to be where things are in that regard. And I think that Pusha T is aware of that, um, and is calling him out about it straight up. But anyway, moving on from that, you got the Kendrick bar, the contract dispute. Um, he comes in, affirms that he is basically the new rap god on the block. Uh, attests that he has no intention of shying away from future beefs, which no duh. And basically drops the hardest set of bars potentially of the year. Uh, I mean, double, triple, quadruple, quintuple, entendre, out the wazoo. You could analyze these lines so many different ways. It was actually insane. I went into this thinking that I was going to do like a breakdown and realized how insane that was going to become. Um, it was like his Super Bowl performance, which you could spend 2 hours on that thing. Um, this track, like just his verse, is like very similar. There's so many different ways you could take it and peel it. Um, these videos are not the form for that. So I'm not going to do it, but there's definitely, you could spend a lot of time on this. Please do it. All in all, I think that this track was not worth the bad publicity that Def Jam is gotten and will continue to get for losing the Clipse contract. The trump card line that Kendrick drops, uh, the sole purpose of it is clearly not a Trump dig. Sure, that's one way that you could analyze that line, but like everything else that Kendrick does, there's like a bunch of different ways to analyze that line, and it's clearly not the sole intended, primary intended, or even secondary intended way that it's dropped. So the fact that they were so chicken about it that they wouldn't run it when it's clearly not meant that way. Sad. And they lost cred in the hip hop world for doing this, because this record is going to outperform their speculations. It was worth the risk. Basically, it was worth the risk. All in all, super impressive track. Not the only track on this record worth talking about by far. Certainly not the track that is worth losing a contract over. Shame on you, Def Jam Records. All right, next up we got POV. The real Drake shots. You stream kings, but you never fit a crowd in there. Clearly, the Drake shot. He's streaming all the time, but his numbers are falling. He drops a brand new track taking shots at LeBron, and he can't even outperform the numbers of a 1-year-old Kendrick song on a song he just dropped 1 week ago. Stream King, but you never fit a crowd in there. Savage bar. Anyway, the production hook is very gripping in this track with the chorus. The beat is very hype on this one, and I love the synth progression on this piece. I also feel like there's a possibility that there is, from Tyler, the creator, a dig at Kanye as well in this track. He says, I came to terms that I'm probably outgrow my heroes. Given his early industry connections to Ye and his early on idolization, it's not a stretch to think that that's a Ye dig. So it's an interesting little friendly fire there. I really like the No Malice bars in here about drugs and escaping the drug system. I thought that they were meaningful and insightful and really add depth to this track beyond just the pot shots being taken. I like that inserted like extra layer here that happened. Overall, I just think that this track is a very addicting listen. And I think it's underhyped compared to some of the other tracks, like the Travis Scott diss. That's obviously very good. Chains and Whips, some of the other bigger tracks. I just think, don't undersell POV, because it's also a good piece. All right, so now we got this piece, Let God Sort 'Em Out, Chandeliers, the title track. This track is worth talking about. And I have $1 million question about this one, which is, who is this one about? There's a couple suspects based on the research I was doing, which was quite a bit, because I really want to know. Because the bars in this track are super cutting for whoever it is. There's some solid accusations in here. Production mix in this one is solid. I mean, this is a 90s style hit piece. You got that synth going. You got the ambient choral foray. It's like this freestyle street mix, right? The bars are slicing. I mean, cutthroat. And there is some solid evidence, in my opinion, that this could be a Drake slice. Here's the line that I think kind of sells it for me. That ain't the ghost that you appear to go get. It's a small, simple line, but a couple people have been pointing out that this could be a reference to the Duppy freestyle from 6 years ago. There's some strong connections between chasing ghosts and that freestyle. Interesting. There's also the decreasing popular narrative and the hunger to get tea on anybody who can. See, Drake has an album that's coming up, and Drake's trying to crawl back into being a dominant force in the narrative here. Drake took a massive L and has been fighting to get back to former form, and he's not been pulling it off. Bro is taking shots at LeBron James, who can't even retaliate in his latest track. Talk about looking for tea on anybody you can find. He calls a politician a goof and then posts that on his own social media. I mean, what are you doing? You really want Iceman to be like that? The coffin allegories could be about this downward turn that Drake has been on. And that's all of this kind of is what makes me think of the potential suspects that it's a Drake dig. There's one piece that doesn't line up. That's the line about the cocaine. I did some digging, and in public knowledge, there's nothing tying Drake to the use of that substance. Now, what musicians do behind closed doors is historically different. However, there's another artist on the beef sphere who has written tracks about being involved with that. One, Travis Scott. There are also lines where this individual is directly called a bitch, which, in So Be It, Pusha T directly calls Travis Scott a bitch and alleges to him being like one. So there's some ties there. You could also say with the coffin allegories and the downturn in popularity, some of the beef things that have been said, chasing the ghosts, based on some of the icons that the individual has selected to idolize recently, or enemies that they've chosen to align themselves against. Maybe this is another Ye hit piece. So there's an argument for those three. Could be Drake, could be Travis, could be Ye. Of the three, I think it's Drake personally, but I think that's where we're narrowed down to. If it is Travis, the added icing on the cake is we had the Jacka Boys drop recently within a few days of this album, and the court of public opinion on those two albums is ironing out. And yeah, that album is not doing so hot. So that's a nice added bonus for Clipse there. I also wanted to mention the Nas bar in this track goes super hard. And there's a little nod at the end to his album, which is set to drop at the end of 2025. So based on what I heard in his feature on this track, that could be something to look forward to. I do have criticism for this. I think that the production on this album absolutely achieves its established goal. But I can't help but wish it aimed a little bit higher. When you have such a meeting of the minds in hip hop, it allows an opportunity for really cutting edge work from a production standpoint, especially when you have someone as next level as PHARRELL working on it. Don't get me wrong, the production has all the PHARRELL goods there. It's hooking. It's got the juice to it to make the beats interesting and repetitive in order to allow the masterful lyricism to take the front seat and drive the track. But we are in an age of hip hop where it's been proven that you don't any longer have to sacrifice instrumentation and production quality in order to have cutting lyricism. It's been proven. There are contemporary artists right now this year, within the last few months, who are doing it. McKinley Dixon, Little Sims, Kevin Abstract, Jid, just to name a few, are proving that rap can be more than just lyrics and a good beat. A wave of instrumental and production excellence accompanying lyrics is the future of hip hop, and it's happening right now. Pharrell is a legendary producer. He has nothing to prove, but I think that he is capable of evolving with the hip hop genre. And I would hate to watch him get left behind. This album was amazing. The production was fantastic, but it could have been better. And that's why, when I think about my baseless rating for this album, I'm giving it a nitric 9.